How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Infinite Sports. I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, to recap Week 6 in the NFL. And again, another wild week, as I always like to say, because each week gives us something memorable to talk about. So let's kind of get into it. We'll start off with talking about the game that happened over in London between the New York Jets and the Denver Broncos. So obviously, where I'm from, the Jets are a topic of conversation, and that continued with this game. Jets lost a close game. They dropped to 0-6. This game was up for the taking. It really was. The Jets finally got a takeaway in this game. It was on the Broncos' opening drive, first possession. Bo Nix makes a nice play, connects with Troy Franklin. He ends up fumbling the football. Jets recover, and they turn that into points. But all the Jets did was kick field goals, and they got a safety. That's it. No touchdowns in this game. Justin Fields held on to the ball for way too long. He got sacked 9 times by this Denver pass rush. And again, most of it was because he held on to the ball too long. Would not get rid of it. And it's just the Jets could not function as an offense. Justin Fields finished with 45 passing yards. But he really had negative 10 passing yards because of the amount of yards lost from all the sacks. That's bad. That is not good. And the Jets defense showed up in this game. You know, it led to Sean Payton kind of calling a conservative game because the Broncos kind of relied on the running game at times. Ball was taken out of Bo Nix's hands at times because Sean Payton also trusted his defense. Denver's defense is really good, and they were having their way with that Jets offense. So there was no reason, and Bo Nix at times can be a gunslinger. So it wasn't that kind of game. So Sean Payton said, all right, we're just going to sit back, play defense, run the football, and just hope that the defense can shut down this Jets offense and they don't get anything done. That's really what happened. And everybody's talking about this right before the end of the first half. Okay, so the Jets have no timeouts left. First of all, they run a fake punt on 4th and 1. They pick it up with Breece Hall. They get the first down. Then there's another sack, I believe. And then rather than trying to either have the field goal team run out, because it's 4th and 1 at that point. You can't spike it to stop the clock. Rather than, actually no, there was a sack, then Fields threw a completion to make it 4th and 1. Rather than sending out the field goal team to try to attempt a long field goal or go for the Hail Mary, the Jets just let the clock wind down, and they go into the half without doing anything. And Garrett Wilson is on the sidelines yelling at Aaron Glenn. He was ticked off with how that was handled. That can't happen. I mean, at least try to run a Hail Mary. Maybe run a QB sneak. In that time, get up to the line, maybe run a QB sneak with Fields. Pick up the first down, then you could spike it, and then you can either say, all right, we'll try a long field goal or we'll do the Hail Mary. But the other thing, too, is with the Hail Mary, how would the Broncos attack Fields? Would they just, drop a bunch of people back? Would they have an extra guy rushing him? Because would Fields even be able to get a throw off the way things were going? I mean, he didn't get a throw off at the end of the game, I think. I think there was an attempt at a Hail Mary, and he ended up getting sacked. Yeah, it was on 4th and 8 from Denver's 44-yard line. But you could have did something. And yeah, then, if you leave too much time on the clock, and let's say there's maybe a couple seconds left, if you were to attempt something, then you give Denver an opportunity to do something on their side. But that wasn't the case. The Jets just let the clock wind down, and that was it. And it was just a slog. That game was just a slog the entire time. Both offenses struggled. Like I said, the Jets defense showed up. And with these international games, sometimes these kind of things happen. Like the Broncos, if this game was played in the Mile High, Broncos win this game going away. But because, it's overseas, different time zone, things like that, you got to adjust. Sometimes that happens. And I always say, and everybody always says this, really, I'm just piggybacking off of what people always say, is that defense travels. Although the Jets defense really has not played well this year. I mean, you could say this was their best game. I mean, they got to Bo Nix. I mean, they really got to Bo Nix only one time. They sacked him once. But you got to take away. Jermaine Johnson made his return. He had the one sack, so it's good to have him back. The Broncos, again, offensively, I mean, they only ran the ball for 78 yards. The leading receiver is Evan Ingram. The game was there for the taking. But, I mean, it's just the coaching was not great. Quarterback play, I mean, that was as poor as it can get. Justin Fields was playing scared. There was so many times, and I was getting texts in my group chat of these wider angle shots. You had Mason Taylor, you had Garrett Wilson. These guys were wide open. Nobody's around them, and Fields can't get rid of the ball. Has to get rid of the ball quickly, and this is something that he's been criticized for. Is holding onto the ball too long, not being fast at scanning his progressions, taking too long to process what the defense has given him. And that leads to 9 sacks. And I think also how they're using him is not right either. Like, we really don't see him on these design runs. There's no RPOs. You're not really seeing any of that. And that's his strength. And I think also it just doesn't help that outside of Garrett Wilson, again, who is the other threat at wide receiver that you're going to? They don't have it. They don't have it. And I think that's on the front office. There should have been another playmaker that they should have tried to bring in. I mean, Josh Reynolds, they brought in a veteran, but I just feel like there should have been somebody else. They really don't even play Allen Lazard. Again, Allen Lazard is going to be a Steeler at some point. It should happen. I mean, it's getting worse and worse for the Jets. And it's just, you got this kind of back and forth between the fan base and some of the longtime Jet fans that are in the media saying that Aaron Glenn should lose his job and that it's getting worse. And then you have on the other side, they're saying you got to give it time. He's a rookie head coach. These mistakes happen. And to be honest, for me, I'm kind of with the Jet fans. Because they've been waiting and waiting and waiting. And not only that, it's not getting any better. This team is getting worse every week. You go back to week 1 against Pittsburgh. At the time I was impressed. They were running the ball. They were getting after Aaron Rodgers, the pass rush, even though, again, Rodgers had 4 touchdowns in the game and made some really good throws. But the Jets pass rush was present for that game. They were running the ball. Fields had one of his best throws of his career to Garrett Wilson for the touchdown. And you walk away from that game, and again, you're sick and tired of the moral victories. But at least you could say, all right, in that respect, they were competitive. But then they get smacked around by Buffalo. They get smacked around by Dallas. They somehow were in position to win against Tampa, but Baker and that offense goes right down the field to kick a game-winning field goal after the other field goal got blocked, and that led to a touchdown for the Jets. Miami, I mean, they were never really in the game. I know it was a one-score game, but Miami was kind of in control of that. Jets made costly mistakes, turned the ball over. It just doesn't seem like it's getting better. And if this team ends up with the first pick, are you going to want to run it back with this same regime? I don't know. There's still plenty of time to right the ship and get this right. But it's getting worse and worse. And then after the game, Aaron Glenn has asked a very valid question about the quarterback position, and he acts like it's a ridiculous question. Justin Fields was not good. I mean, we can't predict what would have happened if they made a change, if they put in Tyrod Taylor. Because Tyrod Taylor, yeah, he could throw a pick. The sacks would still happen. But you know what? Taylor would get rid of the ball. He would get rid of the ball quicker than Justin Fields. Again, the game's right there for the taking. But it was a very valid question, and Aaron Glenn just completely dismissed it. It's a ridiculous question. It's a valid question. Fields has not looked great. He hasn't. And it is very telling when you had the Steelers switch to Russell Wilson, and even though the Steelers lost their last 5 games, including the playoffs, Fields got sprinkled in at times for those run packages. But other than that, there was never really a discussion when it came to the Steelers on, yeah, we're going to go to Fields now. There was never a discussion. So what does that say? So what does that say about Fields? I think Fields is a very good athlete. I don't think he's not a good quarterback. Yeah, he could use his legs. When he takes off like that run against Miami, even though it was a broken play, that was electric. All right, those runs he had with the Bears and some of the runs he had with the Steelers. You know, like, it's exciting. But you know what? You got to be able to throw the football a little bit. And he can't do that. He's got to be able to release that football quick, especially against a pass rush like that. And he couldn't do it. And that's another blown opportunity for them. That's another game that you could look at and say the Jets could have won that game. And they didn't. So now they are 0-6. They got the Panthers next week. And, you know, I looked at that game and I said, you know, maybe I think the Jets could still win that game. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough because now they're coming in with this rushing attack. Rico Dowdle has been out of this world these last couple weeks. And Chuba Hubbard might be coming back. He might lose his job. But that rushing attack is going to be a problem. You saw Tetero McMillan score a couple touchdowns. Panthers picked up a win against Dallas. Late field goal to win the game. Suddenly they're 3-3. And then the Bengals, I mean, with Jake Browning, you thought, all right, maybe the Jets could take advantage of the interceptions. Well, now Joe Flacco's in there. And you know what? I know the Bengals, again, still didn't look great against the Packers on Sunday. But you know what? Flacco kept them in the game. Flacco didn't turn the ball over. So that's going to be tough. Then you go on the bye. You come out of the bye against one of the best defenses in the Browns. You got the Patriots, who actually now are in first place in their division. Lamar's going to be back for the Ravens. Then you're going to be home against the Falcons with their rushing attack with Bijan Robinson. How about him yesterday? If you're watching this, whenever I post it on Monday night. Unbelievable. It's going to be tough. Wins are going to be tough to come by for this team. It's just not getting better. It's not getting better. Aaron Glenn could be 1-1. I'm not going to say he's going to get fired. I mean, we already saw a firing. The Titans let go of Brian Callahan, or Bo Callahan, I should say, from draft day. But yeah, Brian Callahan, they let him go. Could Aaron Glenn be next? I mean, I wouldn't say right now, but I mean, if this gets to a certain point, I mean, if they show no progress over these next several weeks, the noise is going to get louder and louder. But I don't know. I think they should make the switch to Tyrod Taylor. I think you should. Because if you want to... And I don't think Aaron Glenn is worried about his job security. But you got to give the fans something. Like, you got to show them that you want to win football games. And by not going to Tyrod Taylor on Sunday, it gave a lot of people the impression that you weren't doing everything you could to win the game. And it's, again, I mean, going to Tyrod Taylor, it's not like you're going to, Joe Montana. Joe Montana's not coming off the bench, all right? Tyrod Taylor is a solid backup. He gives you something different than Fields. Tyrod Taylor can operate better at the quarterback position as opposed to Fields. Justin Fields, no offense to him, is more of a fantasy football quarterback. That's what he is. You know, like, he gets the rushing yards, he gets the rushing touchdowns. You know, he had those garbage time passing touchdowns at the end against the Cowboys. That's what he is. You know, this is what, his fifth year now? You know, like, he is what he is. He could win you some games, but he also has to be in the right situation, too. Like, I think part of the reason why, obviously, when he stepped in and he was the starting quarterback for the Steelers when Russ was out, you know, like, it worked out because the Steelers, to me, are just a better situation. You know? And you're seeing that, you know, with the other guy that the Jets kind of, you know, shut the door on, that we'll get into in a second. But it's just, now you bring him to the Jets, you know, you don't have the same coaching staff. Yeah, you got Garrett Wilson, who's, I mean, a better receiver than what the Steelers had. I mean, I guess, you know, with Pickens, you could, I mean, look at what Pickens is doing with the Cowboys. I mean, you do have Garrett Wilson, obviously, but, you know, you don't have the same personnel. And you don't have the most expensive defense backing you up either, with TJ Watt and all those guys. Cam Hayward. It's just not good. It's not good. So we will see what happens within the coming weeks. But it wouldn't surprise me if they go to Tyrod at some point. But maybe, I don't know. I really don't know. But you know what? Here's the thing. I understand both sides. But like I said, I'm kind of siding with the Jet fans saying that they've waited long enough. Like, they're tired of waiting. They're tired of being patient. They want to be competitive now. There was that brief period where you had a very good defense and you felt like we needed a quarterback, or you needed a quarterback to take yourselves over the top. And that's why they went out and they traded for Aaron Rodgers. And then, unfortunately, Rodgers tore his Achilles first week. And I really think if Aaron Rodgers doesn't do that, with that defense and Rodgers getting the feel of that offense, I think that team wins maybe close to 9-10 games. Maybe. Because I think the defense got weaker the following year. And then I think when they lost that game to Denver with the special... Because that was the other thing, too, special teams. I mean, Greg Zuerlein was great in 2023, not so much last year. Like, again, Rodgers was a problem last year, but there was more than just him. And then Woody Johnson pulled the plug on Robert Saleh. They make Jeff Ulbrich the head coach, and that just really derailed everything because he had to do everything. He had to pay attention to all aspects of the game as opposed to just his side, which was defense. And look what he's doing in Atlanta now. What they did to Josh Allen in that offense. All right, so I know I spent a lot of time on the Jets, but look, it's close to home, and there was a lot going on. Look, it doesn't seem like a lot happened in that game, but a lot did happen in that game, and a lot came out of that game. So Broncos moved to 4-2. Jets are 0-6. Where are the wins coming from for the Jets, really? So actually, speaking of Aaron Rodgers, that guy, Pittsburgh, they're 4-1. They're 4-1. I did watch that game on Sunday closely. I think Rodgers is getting more comfortable in that offense. I thought the offensive line did a very good job. I thought Rodgers did a good job at getting rid of the ball quickly. We saw Darnell Washington, the big tight end, making an impact. Caught the first pass from Rodgers early on in the game. DK Metcalf, continues to get more involved. Touchdowns in 4 straight games. Rodgers had that double pump throw to him, and he made a nice catch for the touchdown. Another nice catch early on along the sidelines as well. I think that was on 3rd and 6. They got a little bit of a running game going. They got Jaylen Warren back. I mean, they ran the ball for what? Exactly 100 yards. I mean, nothing really to that wows you. But again, I think at times, you saw some tough runs from Jalen Warren, from Kenneth Gainwell. You saw a little bit from Caleb Johnson as well. But yeah, Rodgers, a couple touchdowns, 235 yards passing. The Steelers' defense was all over Dylan Gabriel in this game. 6 sacks. That defense is flying. They're getting healthy. I do worry a little bit about the back end. But you know what? If that pass rush gets home, it's not really going to matter. But that was look. Dylan Gabriel, he doesn't look like he's going to be the franchise quarterback for the Browns. He struggled. I mean, again, it's only his second career game, but I don't think he doesn't give you that like wow factor. But he's going to get some runway here. Obviously now with Flacco getting traded, I mean now it's him and Shedeur Sanders. So we'll see if we even see Shedeur at any point. But yeah, that was a tough spot for the rookie, and the Browns really couldn't run the football. That was something they were able to do against the Vikings the previous week. They only had 65 yards on the ground. Quinshon Judkins had no running lanes at all. The leading receiver ended up being Fannin Jr., the rookie tight end. David Njoku got banged up in this game. Also, the Browns dropped some passes in this game. They didn't do Dylan Gabriel any favors with that either. That didn't really help him. But look, you know what? The Steelers, look, I'm not going to sit here and say they're a great team by any means. I would like to see how they do against, we'll see what happens when they play the Ravens later on. They do have the Bills coming up on the schedule. They also have the Lions coming up later in the year. I'm trying to see who else. The Colts, who look really good. The Chargers. The Bears coming off of that impressive Monday night win, or that comeback Monday night win. The Packers, which I will be at in a couple weeks. So there's definitely some stiff competition that's really going to show what they are made of. But you know what? I think with this defense and Rodgers not putting the ball in harm's way, they're not going to be an easy team to beat. But we'll see. We'll see. I would like to see this passing game continue to evolve. Because I do think, because Rodgers does get rid of the ball quickly, and a lot of times it's checkdowns, and short passes, things like that. You got to be able to develop more of a vertical passing game. And that's why I do think, like, DK Metcalf has looked good with the Steelers so far, but I do think you need to add another pass catcher. I think there's definitely a veteran wide receiver, and I think the Steelers are looking. I mean, there's one you just played against, Jerry Jeudy. Maybe they, I don't know. But then again, the Browns just traded for him last year, but he's, that's somebody that comes to mind. I know Calvin Ridley with the Titans. Maybe I know he pulled the hamstring, so I don't know what his status is going forward, but that could be somebody maybe the Steelers look into. There's got to be a receiver that they can go out and get. I like the tight ends. I think running back, like obviously the running back room could have been better, but I think it's fine with what they have for now. But Rodgers at 1 year, I mean, obviously that was prime Rodgers, but he had a wide receiver become a running back. Ty Montgomery. He had Ty Montgomery coming out of the backfield to be their running back in 2016. But I think the guys they have can get the job done. Maybe Caleb Johnson continues to get more involved in the offense, and he becomes more of a prominent role. They need another wide receiver. But Jalen Ramsey on defense is making plays. I mean, they got a solid team. I'm not gonna say they're great, but you kind of look at the landscape of the NFL. I mean, what team do you look at and say nobody's beating that team? Nobody. There's no one in the NFL that you could say this team is virtually impossible to beat. So that's kind of my thoughts there, though. Steelers get the win, though. They improved to 4-1. They're running away with this thing, though. The division. I mean, the Ravens are 1-5 now. The Browns are 1-5. The Bengals keep losing. They do play the Bengals this upcoming week. Joe Flacco against Aaron Rodgers. That's going to be a sight to see. Those two guys from the previous era going at it one more time. That makes me happy a little bit. That warms my heart a little bit just to see that. As somebody that grew up loving watching the 2010s quarterbacks, it'll be nice to see that. But yeah, I mean, Steelers look fine. They're getting better. They're getting better. A couple touchdowns by Rodgers. The other one was I know the one to Metcalf, but there was the other one to Connor Hayward. A little bit of improv by Rodgers, scrambling out of the pocket and then kind of thrown across his body into the middle of the end zone, back of the end zone. Hayward making a nice catch. So, yeah, everything's looking good with the Steelers. And listen, for people that know me, they know that I've been a fan of Rodgers for a long time. If he was with the Jets now, I think the Jets would have at least 1 or 2 wins to their name. I think Aaron Glenn showing Aaron Rodgers the door is probably the best thing that could have happened to Rodgers. Because with the Steelers, look, Steeler fans are another fan base. They want to see, like it's similar to the Yankees, they want to see this team take the next step and get back to a Super Bowl. But I think, which I'm not saying that's going to happen. But I just think that was a much better situation for Rodgers to end up in than with the Jets. I think that was the best thing is Aaron Glenn saying, we're good. We're going in a different direction. Because I don't know, the Jets would not have the record the Steelers have right now with Rodgers. Like the Jets still wouldn't be a good team. They wouldn't. So 4-1. Steelers are 4-1. All right, so I did bring up the Rams, I did bring up the Ravens. They ended up losing 17-3 to the Rams. That was an ugly game. It's an ugly game. Josh Carty misses a 26-yard field goal on the Rams' first drive of the game. After the Ravens went down, they kicked the field goal. Then Cooper Rush threw a pick. Stafford ended up fumbling right after the interception. Then the Ravens turned it over on downs. I mean, they turned over on downs a few times. 4th and 3, they went for it, didn't get it. Rams then tied the game. This is what I wanted to talk about. They get the ball down to the Rams 4. They run it with Derrick Henry. Picks up 3. Okay. Run it again with Derrick Henry. They do a direct snap with Mark Andrews. Don't gain anything. They do another direct snap to Mark Andrews. They don't get anything. Then they run it with Derrick Henry, and he loses 2 yards on 4th and goal. And they get nothing. Why is it so complicated? Just run it with Derrick Henry. Let him hammer it home. He's got to get it at least once. I know he got stuffed on 4th and goal, but just keep giving it to him. Why are you running a direct snap twice with your tight end? That was bad. So then the Rams, they come out in the second half. They go right down the field. Very nice catch by Kyren Williams on 4th and 2. His backside was able to hit inbounds, completed catch, and then he next play scores from 3 yards out. Ravens then end up fumbling. Rams turned that into a touchdown. That was Tyler Higbee. And that was all the scoring. Puka Nacua actually got hurt in this game. He did come back. Doesn't seem like it's going to be a long-term thing, but it is something to keep an eye on. He is going to actually, so he's day-to-day, but it seems like he could be missing time. I believe it was a foot injury. Ankle sprain, day-to-day. Yeah, it looked bad. I'm seeing expected to miss time. So that means Devontae Adams is going to be back to being the wide receiver 1. Obviously not with the Rams, but just, Devontae Adams in general being the wide receiver 1 for a team. So I don't think the Rams, obviously Puka Nacua is arguably the best receiver right now in the NFL. He's gotten off to such a great start. They're going to miss him, but I think the Rams could still get by without him. They do take on the Jags, so that's and that's going to be another international game, and those games could be a little wonky. And the Jags aren't a bad team, But then you got the bye week, so the bye week comes at a perfect time for this. And then my guess is Puka comes back the following week. They're home against the Saints, but even if he doesn't come back, I know the Saints have kind of been a pesky team. The Rams should be able to win that game. So 17-3, they end up winning. Puka ends up getting hurt, but it's not a long-term thing. I did bring up the Cowboys and the Panthers. Rico Dowdle against his former team. He had 183 rushing yards, and he was the leading receiver with a receiving touchdown. These last 2 weeks, he had 23 carries for 206 yards against the Dolphins, and he had 30 carries for 183 yards against the Cowboys. That's incredible. I mean, this game was back and forth all game long. A lot of action. George Pickens had a big game for the Cowboys. The Panthers couldn't cover him. He had 9 receptions for 168 yards and a touchdown. We saw Ferguson once again get a touchdown. Dak had a good game. 3 touchdowns, no picks. Bryce Young, 3 touchdowns. He did have an interception, passed under 200 yards, but, he did okay. Tetairoa McMillan had a couple of touchdowns. Were there any sacks in this game? 1 sack by the Cowboys defense. Cowboys defense is not good. I mean, it just continues. It's a problem. Like, if the Cowboys defense was average, I mean, this team could have won. I mean, this team could have beat the Packers. Maybe there wouldn't have been a tie. They could have won this game. They could. I mean, well, they did. They did beat the Giants. They could have beaten the Eagles, and the Bears. The Bears really brought it to them. I mean, who knows how that game goes if they have an average defense? It's just, like, Dak is having this really good year. He's got 13 touchdowns to 3 picks. He's having a good year. But the problem is that defense just cannot get stops. So they're going to have to figure it out. But Dak's on his way to having one of his best seasons, and the Cowboys are going to have a losing record. And they got the Commanders at home. You got the Broncos. You got the Cardinals at home. I know the Cardinals have issues, but you know what? That offense can put up points. And they got the bye. Then you're at the Raiders, which I think you should win. But, I mean, this is a brutal stretch after this. Then, from Week 12 on, you got the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Lions, the Vikings, the Chargers, who should be healthier at that point, Commanders on the road, and then you know what? I'm going to throw the Giants in there too, because you know what? The Giants, I don't want to get too excited on them, obviously, but the Giants, I mean, look, the Giants beat the Eagles and the Chargers, okay? They could beat the Cowboys. They should have beat the Cowboys in Week 2. Now, I'm not saying the Cowboys are going to win 3 or 4 games, but that's a tough stretch. Yeah, so they're 2-3-1. Suddenly that NFC East, I mean, I don't know what to make of it now. The Eagles have lost 2 in a row. The Commanders lost again. Cowboys lose. Giants are 2-4. I don't know. See how it plays out. Colts continue their winning ways, 31-27 over the Cardinals. Kyler Murray did not play in this game. Marvin Harrison Jr. suffered a concussion during this contest. So it was Jacoby Brissett. And Jacoby Brissett actually, did okay. I mean, I think he did a little better than okay. He didn't really have a running game, the Cardinals. He went 27-44, 320 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Spread the ball around. Defense got a sack of Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones had a couple of touchdowns and a pick. Jonathan Taylor just continues to have a great year. Over 100 yards rushing, a touchdown. Daniel Jones had a rushing touchdown as well. Tyler Warren, their rookie tight end, he's gotten off to a good start. He had a touchdown in this game. Colts defense, a couple of sacks of Jacoby Brissett. They got the best record in the AFC. Who would have thought? But, again, this is what happens. Daniel Jones, good offensive line, good running game. Defense is okay. 5-1. 5-1. And he's got decent weapons. So 37-27 or 31-27 Colts over the Cardinals. Colts have the best record in the AFC, like I said. This game was tough for me to pick, and I took the home team. I probably should have taken the road team after the home team had an insane win over the team that's been in the Super Bowl the last 3 years, and that's the Chiefs. Jaguars fall to the Seahawks 20-12. Sam Darnold continues to play well. He's getting better and better with his new team. Also, Jackson Smith-Njigba. What a year he's had so far. 162 yards receiving, 8 receptions, 1 touchdown. Darnold connected with him on a long one. I think that went for what? That touchdown went for 61 yards. I mean, he's coming into his own. Cooper Kupp had a touchdown. A.J. Barner had a big catch. He continues to be a weapon for this team. The defense, I mean, they got after Trevor Lawrence, which I kind of figured. 7 sacks. Again, defense does travel. Lawrence didn't turn the ball over. He had a couple touchdowns of his own. Brian Thomas Jr. actually finally had a good game, which that was good to see. But yeah, Jags had problems running the ball. I mean, this Seahawks team is good. They're a good team. They play good defense. They get after the quarterback. They create turnovers. And this offense has good weapons on this team. And Darnold, this is a good spot for him. So I didn't have this team making. I didn't pick this team to make the playoffs. I went all NFC North, but I kind of wish I would have subbed out one of those teams for the Seahawks because I felt like the Seahawks were a good team going into this year. So, but yeah, 20-12, Seahawks over the Jags. This is a wild game. Chargers 29-27 over the Dolphins. This was kind of a back and forth game. It took the heroics. So actually, yeah. So Justin Herbert and the Chargers, they were up 26-13 in the fourth quarter, and then a couple of touchdowns from the Dolphins, one by Achane, a rushing touchdown, and then Tua hits Darren Waller for a go-ahead touchdown late. All of a sudden, you're thinking, oh man, the Chargers, they're gonna lose again. They're gonna lose 3 straight. But I don't know how Justin Herbert didn't get sacked on this play. Dolphins are coming after him. He's able to evade the sack. Hassan Haskins helping blocking up front, and he's able to hit Ladd McConkey, and McConkey takes it all the way down into Dolphins territory, and that was a 42-yard pass play on 2nd and 10, and then Cameron Dicker kicks the go-ahead field goal with 9 seconds left. I mean, I don't know how Herbert did that. That was an incredible play by him. To be able to stand in the pocket and avoid the sack, get it off McConkey, taking it down to Dolphins territory. And they had no Quinn Johnston for this game. They had no Omarion Hampton for this game. They're missing tackles. They're missing guys on defense. This team's banged up, and they were able to get the win. And then the Dolphins get the ball back, and Tua immediately throws a pick. Not a good day for Tua. He had 3 interceptions on the day. Yeah, it's not looking good. Not looking good. And it really, and behind the scenes too. Because, Tua gets up in front of the media and talks about how some players are late to players-only meetings or they're just not showing up. And he's talking about the leadership. And then you got Mike McDaniel and him kind of, coming back at that, trying to defend himself. It's not like Miami's a mess too with what's going on over there. Their season's unraveling. They're going to finish with a high draft pick. Not looking good. And listen, I don't think Tua is a horrible quarterback. I'm not going to sit here and say that, but I would not have given him the contract that he got. I just wouldn't. I mean, because also, with the history of the concussions, I would not. But again, it's, sometimes for teams, it's hard to find your franchise quarterback. But I think you had to, I think maybe you could have went in a different direction. Because I don't see it with him. I don't. So this is kind of this is turning into a lost season for the Dolphins. Big win for the Chargers, though. They really needed that because, 2 straight losses, looking at 3. They were fortunate to win that game. And now they got the Colts coming up. They got Indiana Jones coming in, so that's going to be an interesting game. Drake May looks good. Continues to look good on some deep passes. Couple touchdowns to Kayshon Boutte, Demario Douglas. Patriots, they're getting into a rhythm. They get this running game going a little bit. Their leading rusher was Drake May. They got to get this running game going with Travion Henderson and Ramondre Stevenson. But, Drake May on the season, 10 touchdowns to 2 picks. Not bad. Not bad. Patriots defense, couple sacks. Actually, they did get a takeaway in this game, I believe. Yeah, no, they got the win. They keep on rolling. They've won 3 straight now. And they could have won the game against Pittsburgh. They should have won the game against Pittsburgh. But now they take on Mike Vrabel's old team who just fired their head coach. So we'll see how that goes. So now we go into the later games. Packers 27-18 over the Bengals. Jordan Love threw an interception on the first drive. Yeah, I didn't feel great about taking the Packers with the big spread. But I was like, well, if the defense could get after Joe Flacco, I don't know how they're going to. But Flacco got rid of the ball quickly. And he did just enough where the Bengals were able to cover. But I don't know. The Packers, something's still missing from this team. I mean, Josh Jacobs continues to have a good year. 2 more rushing touchdowns on the year. He's got 6 rushing touchdowns on the season. Matthew Golden caught a long pass in this game. Only 1 sack of Joe Flacco. I mean, I feel like the Packers defense could have got after Flacco a little bit. Just didn't happen. And in his Bengals debut, couple touchdowns, a little over 200 yards. They can't run the ball. Jamar Chase had 12 targets, 10 receptions for 94 yards. T. Higgins, 5 for 62. It's just they were kind of playing keep up the whole time. They actually got shut out in the first half. They were losing 10-0. They actually outscored the Packers 18-17 in the second half. But the Packers were in control of that game. I need to see a little bit more out of them, though. I need to see a little bit more out of the Packers. I thought after the first 2 weeks, I'm like, man, I mean, they beat the Lions, they beat the Commanders, the defense looks great. But these last ever since that loss to the Browns, I've kind of come back down to earth with them. I still think they're good, but they're not great. They're not great. And that was what I was saying but I thought when they got Micah Parsons, I'm like, well, here's the chip right here. This is that piece. Doesn't seem like that. It doesn't seem, and I worry about the back end with their team. That secondary, I worry about that because if that pass rush does not get home, especially against some of these good teams, that is going to be an issue. And you saw that against the Cowboys, and you saw it a little bit in this game because you're going up against Jamar Chase, who made this great catch on 4th and 5 for a touchdown. It's a problem. But the 3-1-1. They got the Cardinals coming up, which I think is a bit of a tough game. And like I said, they'll be in Pittsburgh 2 weeks, Sunday Night Football, and I'll be there. I cannot wait. I'm very excited for that game. All right, so what else we got here? So 3 more. Actually, no. No, there was only 3 midday games. That was it. And then you had the Sunday night game. So yeah, we brought up the Titans. They let go Brian Callahan. I mean, this was just I don't even know how to even describe this game. It just the Titans. I mean, just the turnovers, the interceptions, the fumbles. It just man, ugly game. I mean, Cam Ward. I think this was the one where it got deflected and intercepted. Oh yeah, because let me see. No, but yeah, there was an interception right before the end of the half. Then there was a fumble. There was a fumble near the goal line. It was a mess. The turnover. There was a couple of turnovers at the. Actually, how many turnovers they end up with? Yeah, they had 3. So Cam Ward lost 2 fumbles. I mean, one of them, he's going to throw it, and the ball he just loses the ball. And then the other one, I think, was in their own territory, and the Raiders capitalized on that. Yeah, so he got sacked, lost the ball. They recovered, the Raiders, and Geno connected with Michael Mayer for the touchdown. But yeah, they were up 17-0 at one point. The Raiders, that was the Gentry touchdown, I believe. Yeah. Titans just, man, it's rough. It's rough over there. Ridley got hurt early on in this game. We talked about that. Raiders, though, I mean, they get a win. Don't feel great about it. Really don't feel that good about it. And they take on the Chiefs next week. They give the Chiefs a tough time. But I don't know. They're getting a big number, though, when it comes to the spreads. They're getting a big number. I'm caught in no man's land because the Chiefs, when they have a big line, when they're favored, they usually don't cover, but then sometimes they do cover, and you look silly. The Raiders, they really haven't shown me anything. Geno's turning the ball over constantly. That was an issue in this game. There's no Brock Bowers, it looks like, again. I don't know. But it's a divisional game. We'll see. Then we got Bucks 49ers. So this was, this game was kind of going back and forth a little bit. But things kind of changed after the 49ers fumbled. Well, you had a fumble by the Niners, then you had a missed field goal, then you had an interception by Mac Jones. The second interception is kind of what did him in, because then the Bucks capitalized on that, kicked the field goal. But Baker Mayfield, on their first drive of the third quarter, okay? First drive of the third quarter, it's 3rd and 14, and Baker does what Baker does. Got to pick up a first down, he does it himself. Takes off, evades the 49ers defense, is able to stretch the ball over the first down marker, picks up the first down, and then a couple plays later, hits Tez Johnson for a 45-yard touchdown, and then he got MVP chance for Baker. I mean, it was just 2 very good plays by Baker. And he's down, his starting 3 receivers. No Mike Evans, Chris Godwin didn't play, and now Emeka Egbuka hurts his hamstring. So now you're down to Tez Johnson, Sterling Shepard, Ryan Miller, and then I think Cameron Johnson. And there was no Bucky Irving on top of that coming out of the backfield, so they had Sean Tucker and Rashad White. They just keep winning. 49ers, though, more injury news on their front. Already down so many guys on offense. They're going to hopefully be getting guys back. But no Nick Bosa now, torn ACL. And now Fred Warner's out with the season-ending ankle injury. Got his leg caught underneath. And he's out. The anchor of the defense. I mean, it's just, I can't believe this with the Niners. The amount of injuries. When does it end? When does it end? I don't get it. But look, they're still 4-2. They could still salvage this season. They're not buried. You get the guys back on offense. You finally get Brandon Ayuk back and Pearsall, Kittle, Purdy. You get all those guys back. You can put up points. Just your defense. I mean, the defense can't. I don't know how many more blows to this defense they can handle. And Robert Saleh is doing a heck of a job with that defense. But at some point, you're going to run out of guys, and you're not going to be able to stop anybody. Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, that's the best of the best. And you're down those guys. I mean, it's tough. It's going to be real tough. But they're going to have to figure it out. It's just unfortunate. It's part of the game. And you look at the Bucs offense, like I said. I mean, Baker is down his top 3 receivers, and he just keeps going. Just slinging it to whoever's on the field. At some point, it's going to be you and me on the field playing receiver for the Bucs. Not really, but you know what I'm trying to say. But Baker, I mean, those MVP chants, 12 touchdowns to 1 pick. He is having a great season. Bucs are the number 1 seed in the NFC. They're looking good. I mean, just imagine you get all those guys back. You get Godwin back. I think he might have got Rodgers back too soon. You get Mike Evans back. Egbuka, hopefully that's not a long-term thing. Bucky Irving. Could you imagine what this offense... And Jalen McMillan. Don't even forget about Jalen McMillan, although I don't know if he's going to be back this year at all. I mean, he's making progress. He had that neck injury. You get him back, too. I mean, they got receivers. They are loaded. But you know what? It's very important. And you know what? I kind of... Not that I scratched my head on the prospect, but it was more of the pick itself because I thought the Bucs could have went into addressed a different need. But I mean, you draft Emeka Ibuka. You got these two older receivers in Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. There's a reason for that, you know. And now he's hurt, but you get him back. You draft Tez Johnson. You know, Sterling Shepard, another veteran that's still over there. I mean, that's why, because you kind of worry about injuries, and you know that even whoever gets hurt doesn't matter. Baker's just gonna find the open guy, or he'll do it himself, like he did on that 3rd and 14, and he's done that so many times. So yeah, the Bucs. I mean, they continue to roll. 5-1. All right, so we got the Sunday night game now. Interesting sequence early on. So the Lions take the ball, they go right down the field. They get a touchdown. So they do kind of the same play they did against the Bengals. David Montgomery throws a touchdown pass. It could have been a disaster. Now, it ended up not counting, but Montgomery ends up throwing to Goff a little bit late. He ends up bobbling the ball because, his block, he's got someone blocking for him. I think it was, was it Amon-Ra blocking? Regardless, he collides with one of the Lions players and one of the Chiefs players that was over there as well to set up the block for him so he could, clear pathway to the end zone. So he ends up bobbling it, but he holds onto the ball. He scores the touchdown. So now you're thinking, wow, here we go again. The Lions with their trickery. Monty throws another touchdown pass. I have him in fantasy. Whoop-de-doo. But they end up getting charged with an illegal motion because Goff was still, he was still in motion when the ball was snapped. And he wasn't set. So it gets called back. Then they go for it on 4th and goal. Then there's a delay of game penalty. And now they got to settle for a field goal with Jake Bates. And then Mahomes and the Chiefs, I mean, Patrick Mahomes looked really good in this game. 4 total touchdowns. Hits Xavier Worthy on 4th and goal. Chiefs go up 6-3. Butker ends up missing the extra point. But the Lions, they end up responding. Goff hits Jamison Williams for a 22-yard touchdown. They take the lead. Chiefs then turned it over on downs. Mahomes tried to hit Worthy. That ended up being incomplete after he hit Juju Smith-Schuster for 17 yards. But then the Lions ended up turning it over on downs. Goff tried to hit Amon-Ra St. Brown. St. Brown had it in his hands. Guy catches everything. That was the one pass he ends up dropping. And then the Chiefs take advantage of that. There was a defensive pass interference. Lions were going to get off the field on 4th down or on 3rd down. DPI. Then Mahomes hits Kelsey for 17, and then he takes it in himself for a touchdown. Mahomes next play, 13-10 Chiefs. And that was the score at the half. And then the Chiefs came out. They went 8 plays, 81 yards. Mahomes hit Hollywood Brown for an open touchdown. And, the Lions did strike back. Goff hit Sam Laporta in the back of the end zone. A very nice catch by him. That made it 20-17. But the Chiefs responded. They scored a touchdown. Mahomes hits Hollywood Brown for a touchdown. And then they kicked the field goal later on. The Lions, they ended up turning it over on downs on 4th and 1. Goff can't hit Jamison Williams. And then at the end of the game, they're shaking hands. Everything's nice and all that. And then Brian Branch ends up smacking Juju Smith-Schuster in the face. A brawl ends up ensuing at the end. Mahomes is not happy in the post-game interview. So, yeah, that does... Dan Campbell didn't take a liking to it with what Brian Branch did. Like I said, no one was really happy about that. There were fines that were given out. But, yeah, that was an ugly scene at the end of the game. But the Chiefs, I mean, they look good. Offensively, they looked really good. Mahomes, 3 touchdowns, no picks. 32 yards on the ground, had a rushing touchdown. Kelsey was the leading receiver. The defense did get to Goff one time, but I thought offensive line did a good job protecting Goff, giving him time. 3 sacks of Mahomes in this game. Jahmyr Gibbs, I mean, that running game, the Chiefs really did a good job at minimizing the running game. I mean, also the Lions were kind of playing from behind at times. pretty much the whole game. But yeah, no, they did a good job on Gibbs. I wanted to see a little bit more of Monty in this game too. I felt like he, at times was finding holes, but look, Gibbs is the lead back, so But I did see something that I did see that Dan Campbell wants to see, more out of Monty as well. So, but yeah, the Chiefs win 30-17. I picked them, because I was like, I just don't see them losing two straight, even though they did that at the beginning of the year. But I, they definitely offensively, they look better than really at any point last year. Honestly. And even they went to the Super Bowl last year. Like, I just feel like there's something different about the offense. And it's only going to get better because Rashid Rice is going to come back. And who knows, maybe they make a move to get a running back. That's on the table. They could trade for a running back. Because Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco are really not giving you anything. Kareem Hunt's more for those short yardage gains and when you're by the goal line. Pacheco, I feel like Pacheco, I know he's not wowing us with the numbers this year, but I feel like he's starting to get back to the Pacheco that we knew prior to the injury last year. I don't know. That's just me. Maybe I'm wrong. I see a little bit of that coming back with him. Obviously, the defense is still solid with Spagnuolo coaching it, and Chris Jones is not the same player, but he's still very good. They got a solid unit there. This team is dangerous. It is. And these other teams in their division, the teams in the conference, they got to be a little bit careful. Because right now they're 3-3. You could blink, and all of a sudden they're the number 1 seed. So that's something to pay attention to. The Chiefs are not going away. But, yeah, so they win 30-17. Lions, I think they were kind of due to come back down to earth. They're playing good ball. They were due for a loss. They'll get back up from this. They are playing Tampa on Monday night. That's going to be a very exciting game. That's at 7 o'clock. That's a very exciting game. Can't wait for that. All right, so now we got the 2 Monday night games, and then we're done here. Sorry if this is taking a long time. But, hey, look, trying to give every game as much attention as possible. So we had the dual doubleheader. So the first game was Falcons-Bills. I took the Falcons as the home underdog. They dominated the Bills defense on the ground. 210 rushing yards for the Falcons. Bijan Robinson, that 81-yard touchdown in the first half. He had 170 yards. He was averaging 8.9 yards per carry. That's insane. And Algier had a rushing touchdown early on. Michael Penix did okay. Drake London, what a game he had. He could have had 2 touchdowns, but one of them, he was just out of bounds. So the Falcons, they were looking to get points before the end of the first half. And Penix finds Drake London. He's wide open, but there's nobody. But he has all this open space that, hey, maybe he could take it to the house and score. And it would have been 28-7 at the half. But he ended up stepping out just shy of the goal line. So it ended up not being a touchdown. And I thought that was going to come back to bite him. It didn't. Bills only scored 7 points in the second half. And the Falcons only scored 3. The defense did tighten up. But I thought that was going to come back to bite him. It didn't. Falcons defense got 4 sacks to Josh Allen. They kind of, James Cook got 87 yards on the ground. They kind of held him in check again. Allen had 42 yards. Joshua Palmer ended up being the leading receiver with 60 receiving yards. A couple sacks of Penix the Bills got, but yeah, no, that was tough. Bills have now lost 2 straight. They go into the bye. Good time for the bye. They need it. Get their minds right. You got the Panthers coming out of the bye, and then you got the Chiefs the week after at home. That's a huge game. But yeah, they made life tough on Josh Allen. He went 15-26. There was a play call when they turned it over on downs. When was that? That was in the second half? Yeah, so they try to run this play. Actually, yeah, so. Oh, yeah, no. So there was an incompletion to Ty Johnson on 4th and 2, but there was another play, though, with Elijah Moore that they ended up not getting. And Allen had a couple of picks in this game. One of them was at the end. I'm trying to remember what the Elijah Moore play was. But there was one, like, rather than just, like, running it with James Cook, they just end up doing this play that doesn't work. It just, like, I don't understand. Like, use your best players. I'm trying to see if I can find it. Maybe did I save it on Twitter? I might have saved it on Twitter because I wanted to bring it up. Let me see here. I don't know where it is. But either way, some of the play calling was questionable. And, the Bills, they just got to get back to work. As cliche as it sounds. I don't think the sky's falling. You still got one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. You got one of the best running backs in the NFL. You're going to figure it out. They'll get it right. They're another team, though, that I think needs to trade for another receiver. They need another weapon. But I just don't trust this defense either. Even though they held the Falcons down in the second half, the defense is a bit of an issue. So, but hey, Falcons, that was a big win. That running game is lethal. And it's going to be kind of put to not so much now because the defense is banged up, but now they go take on the 49ers on the road. We'll see. And then you got the Dolphins after that. Patriots on the road could be tough. Wow, how about the Colts at week 10? You got their running game against the Falcons running game. That's, with Bijan on one side, Jonathan Taylor on the other. That's going to be something to keep up on. But, hey, the Falcons are hanging around. That defense is definitely improved. And also, don't forget, Jeff Ulbrich. I know he did not do a good job with the Jets, but he's a good defensive coordinator. And he knows Josh Allen. They gave Josh Allen fits when he was with the Jets. So that was a big win for the Falcons. So then the final game, this was the rematch of the Hail Mary from last year. Bears this time are on the winning side. They went 25-24 on a late field goal that was set up by a Krosky-Merritt fumble. I mean, Commanders were looking to ice the game. It was 3rd and 1. Oh, actually, no. It was a bobble. It was by Jaden Daniels. I don't know why I thought it was Krosky-Merritt had a fumble in this game too, I believe, right? Yeah. Yeah, no, he had a fumble in this game. Yeah, it was earlier in the game. It was in the first quarter. But yeah, no, the Bears go right down the field on their first drive. They kick a field goal. Actually, they scored points on their first 3 drives, and on the Commanders' first 2 drives, they turned the ball over. Jane Daniels had a wide open Deebo Samuel. It was kind of underthrown, and it gets intercepted. So that's the first turnover. The Bears turn that into points, and then Krosky-Merritt ends up fumbling. They turn that into a touchdown. A rushing touchdown. But then Commanders got on the board. It was 13-7 at the half. Commanders ended up missing a field goal. I mean, they took the lead at one point. They were up 24-16 because actually the Bears ended up fumbling. Block field goal. They're looking to put more points on the board, take the lead back. Then it's 24-16. Jaden Daniels connects with Zach Ertz for the touchdown. And you thought that was it. You thought all momentum goes to the Commanders, but the Bears, they didn't blink. Caleb Williams and that offense. Well, this was really more on DeAndre Swift. The Commanders just couldn't tackle DeAndre Swift. He was able to slip a tackle, score a long touchdown, similar to what he did last year against the Commanders, although that was a rushing touchdown. This was a receiving touchdown, 55-yarder, and it was 24-22. At that point, they didn't get the 2-point conversion. Look, the Commanders had the opportunity to ice the game. They end up losing the ball. Bears, they get the game-winning field goal by Jake Moody because there was no Cairo Santos for this game. So Jake Moody gets cut by the Niners. He kicks the game-winning field goal for the Bears. Bears rushing attack, they had over 140 yards rushing. Rushing touchdown by Caleb Williams. Swift had a big day on the ground, over 100 yards. He was their leading receiver also. Roma Dunze had a touchdown earlier in the game, but it got called back. I think there was illegal motion. There was something. But the Bears, 3-2. Look at that. I had them making the playoffs. Man, I'm looking at their schedule. They got a tough schedule later in the year. And then for the Commanders, I mean, win loss, win loss, win loss. 3-3. Take on the Cowboys. They got some tough games coming up on the schedule. After the Cowboys, which is a divisional game, then you got the Chiefs at Arrowhead, home against the Seahawks, and then home against the Lions. Those are tough games. And then, after the bye, you got Denver, you got the Vikings, and then all divisional games. Giants, Eagles, Cowboys, Eagles. So, they got a bit of a tough road ahead of them. So they dropped to 3-3. And that's it. We went through everything pretty much. Went through every game. Another great week in the NFL. Yeah. No. I went. What did I go? 7-8 this week with the spreads. Not great. There were some games I didn't take the Bears. I took the Commanders, I guess, because I just didn't really trust the Bears defense, and if Caleb, because there was one play, Caleb again, just throw the ball away. There was that one play that I don't know if it counted as a sack, but he ended up getting hit when he was out of bounds almost. That's what I'm talking about. But you know what? It seems like he's only going to get better and better. I think that maybe they're starting to find their footing. If they can get that running game going and this defense can kind of lock it in, this is going to be a dangerous team, So, yeah, that was a big win for them. And they should have beat the Commanders last year if it wasn't for that Hail Mary. So, that is pretty much it. Hope you guys enjoyed the rundown of all the games. Be back again. But, yeah, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the video, to the channel. Make sure to follow us on the social media platforms in the description below, and wherever you get your podcasts, you can listen to us as well. Just look up Infinite Sports and you'll find us there. And as always, everybody, I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, signing off. Have a good one. I'll talk to you guys next time. Take care.